down. The broadcast is live. Let's do it live. No, it's live. You're live. It's like a koozie. I know. I would like to leave you get a pizza cooler. Definitely cooler than pouring this into a mug, which is just wrong. Hello? Is someone there? Do we know when there's people in there? I think they just start. We just find out. Okay. By the way, I'm not just a weirdo drinking this out of a mug, but it is a great mug. Doctor. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
The reason why is because this is a busted bottom, so it'll just fall, and we can't have that. Okay. We need to start this thing because we have a lot to do. We have a lot of people to sort. Okay.
Okay. Hi. Hello.
Hi. Shout out to Black Girls Create and Kuumba Kickback for inviting us.
Yes,
let's do this thing. This is the Sorting Fez.
The Queer Archive. I'm Brenna.
I'm Katelyn.
And this is the Sorting Fez. So we do have a lot of people to sort, and we have a lot to tell you about how we're sorting. So we're going to get to work.
Can you do your pronouns?
Oh, yeah. My pronouns are she, her.
They, them. All
Thank
right.
you.
So let's share the screen.
Yeah.
And make sure that I can share from PowerPoint later. System preferences every time. Okay, let's do this. Okay, Sorting Fez. First of all, we need to get one thing out of the way. Fuck J.K. Rowling
and fuck TERFs.
Moving along. I am sure that you're all familiar, so I just cut you off, with the 4 houses and basically their essential premise. Gryffindor, loyal to their intuition. Slytherin, to me and mine. Hufflepuff, to all people. And Ravenclaw, to their systems.
So we linked to it on our Twitter. We're using the Sorting Hat Chats quiz, which sorts you essentially twice. And sometimes when people start taking this quiz or talking about it, they think about primary and secondary as like your primary is the one you're more and the secondary is your second most, but that's not quite how they phrase it. So for the Sorting Hat Chats, your primary house defines your why, your reasons, your motivations, what drives you. And then your secondary house is your how. So it's how you express the thing that motivates you, what makes you tick, and how other people can sort of see it in action. So we'll be talking about most characters' primary and secondary houses, and we will occasionally remind you that it's why and how, not most and second most.
We will also be tapping into the idea that you can be a burnt house and what that looks like, and also the fact that you can model a house as well on top of your primary and your secondary. So lots of fun, juicy goodness. Spoilers. I thought we would sort ourselves before we dive into the doctors and their companions of NuWho. I am a double Slytherin. I love a lot of things about Hufflepuff, so I have concluded that I model Hufflepuff because Hufflepuffs are fucking rad.
They are.
And I appreciate, especially the quality that I appreciate in them is that they are hardworking and they show the fuck up. And that's why I'm like, yes, you. But I think in the end, I am double Slytherin. What about you?
I'm for sure double Gryffindor, but I also model Hufflepuff because I think when you say you should do something, you should do it. Showing up is very big to me.
Love a reliable person. Slytherin and Gryffindor don't have a lot in common. Actually, they do. We were just talking about this. They have a ton in common, which is probably why they go head to head so much. But one thing that we definitely have in common is that we model Hufflepuff. It's true. Let's get into it. The Ninth Doctor, speaking of which, is a double fucking Hufflepuff.
Yes, he is.
Precious little baby.
I know some people like to put him in Gryffindor, but they are incorrect, and let us tell you why. So 9 is steadfast. He's hardworking. He really does care deeply about what's fair. He wants to value everyone equally, and he will lie to keep the peace. So like in Bad Wolf, for instance, when he gets dumped into the Big Brother house.
And Linda's like, do people like me? And he's like, Yes, they think you're sweet. Sweet Linda, they
sweet.
call you. Yeah, and he just
Definitely
commits 100%. So actually in that same episode, he says, believe it or not, all I want is a quiet life.
Fucking Hufflepuff.
And
That's some vibes.
the doctor dances. The thing that brings him the most joy that he really, really wants in that episode is for everyone to live. Everyone gets the chance. And that's why he's so excited at the end of that episode.
Love him. I also try not to, I try to separate the Ninth Doctor from Christopher Eccleston, who plays the Ninth Doctor. But honestly, they're just both really strong Hufflepuffs. So I'm not sad about it.
When we saw him at Galley this last year, he said one of the things that he always tells new actors is treat the camera crew well. And I was like, Hufflepuff.
He's like, that's how you can tell the integrity of a person is how they treat the camera crew on set. And I'm like,
it's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rose Tyler, double Ravenclaw. Not just kidding. LMAO. Not double Ravenclaw. Obviously double Gryffindor. Obviously. Do we need to say more? We probably won't go into detail about the companions too much because we have a lot of characters to get through.
It depends on the companion.
I have so many notes for Bill. Like, there is just a mountain of evidence. So I dare you to fight me on it. Anyways.
I will, just to back up to Rose a second. I know some people, is this how you back up? Yeah. I know some people really love Rose. If you've listened to our podcast, then you know that she's not our preference. But I will say that Rose belongs in my house. Boneheaded Gryffindor sees boneheaded Gryffindor energy. We claim her. Moving along.
All right. The 10th Doctor, who is a double Ravenclaw. 100%. 10 is a man of wit and wisdom, as they say in Fires of the Pompeii. He has a more rigid rulebook.
Yeah.
He has some stubbornness that feels almost like a Gryffindor, but in the end is not moved by a cry for help like a Griff is. And in Fires of the Pompeii specifically, you can see this because a Gryffindor would have immediately taken the opportunity, sees a family that is desperate, taken? Did you say took it? Take pity on them and just be the fucking hero. He does not. He has a strict rulebook that says he cannot interfere, and it needs an intervention to the level of Donna's famous, brilliant speech to move him. And he ends up actually changing his mind because he is a Ravenclaw. Mm-hmm. He can absorb information, observe it, take it in, and say, my system actually does need an adjustment. Let me make that real quick.
Yeah. Gryffindors charge.
Also,
Ravenclaws don't.
Because I'm clever. End of story.
Case closed. Yeah.
He's not that hard to sort.
No, he's really not.
Martha Jones.
Martha Jones.
Speaking of double Ravenclaws.
Hell yeah, double Ravenclaw. Martha is obviously Ravenclaw. We were just talking about her first episode, Smith and Jones, where the doctor gets to the hospital, and forgive me, but I don't remember the scared doctor's name, but it's Martha and Scared Doctor, and they're all looking out the window because they're on the moon, and the Scared Doctor is freaking out, and Martha's like, I wonder how there's oxygen out there. That's very strange. And the doctor's like, Scared Doctor's out of here. You come with me. That's right. Because she's a Ravenclaw, so she's asking questions. She's curious. She's a sort of creative thinker who wants to learn more and also really is smart and is very clear about the fact that she's smart, hence this gif.
Absolutely.
She's like, do not fuck with me.
Exactly. Just like 10, they have a very similar brand of Ravenclaw, and we'll see a couple of different brands of Ravenclaw in this sorting series.
Yeah.
There's a similar because they're like, oh, what do I use? What's the weapon I pull out when I need? Cleverness every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Donna Noble.
Donna fucking Noble.
Ravenclaw Hufflepuff.
Hell yes.
So I would probably buy Hufflepuff Ravenclaw either way. She's pretty equally split.
Yeah.
But she has a very different brand of Ravenclaw. She and Bill have very similar brands. They ask a lot of questions. They are super curious. They think outside of the box. They ask the questions that no one else is asking. She's super witty. And her Hufflepuffness comes out a lot when she is looking out for the person who's being ignored, for the person who's being looked down on. Examples of that are in Silence in the Library, where Miss Evangelista is just being like beaten up by her crew. And she's like, what's going on? I'm going to look after you. She's the only one that shows her kindness. The other example is in Fires of the Pompeii, maybe her most Hufflepuff moment.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I'm not asking you to save everyone, just save someone.
Yeah, this is a really great example to help kind of sort out the primary secondary thing for you. Here's why we say Ravenclaw Hufflepuff and not the opposite. Because Donna's how is the Hufflepuff. That's where it comes through. She does it by asking questions, by reading people, by attending to their emotional needs, by ensuring fairness. This is why Fires of Pompeii is such an iconic episode for her, because it really, I mean, part of this is a rebrand on their part because they didn't want her to be quote unquote shrill, get your sexism out of my face, Russell T Davies. But
hate to see it.
This is where we do hate to see it, but this is where the Hufflepuff energy comes through. It's her how when she wants to get to know people. She wants to give everyone a fair shake. That's why Fires of Pompeii is like so gross to her. And it's part of why she looks at the Doctor, and when they're in the TARDIS and he's getting ready to fly away, it's why she looks at him with such like, oh my God, not because she actually wants him to change history. She's accepted that this is what's happening, Ravenclaw. But she's like, I just want you, I want you to save somebody because it's not fair. And what is fair is at least saving somebody that we can without fundamentally changing history. Hence, primary is Ravenclaw, adaptable, but that how is fucking Hufflepuff.
She'll stand strong in
She
that
will.
Hufflepuff. And she's constantly going to bat for humans. She's like, Donna, human
no.
Also, she's just like, to the fucking Time Lords, straight to their face. Like, basically, us humans are just as important as y'all. Just a reminder. So I love that about her.
Yeah.
I think at first she kind of looks like a Gryffindor because of that straightforwardness, but I think it's always because she's standing up for people and those specifically who are being looked over.
Yeah.
All right, moving along.
Oh.
The 11th Doctor.
Okay, the 11th Doctor is Gryffindor Slytherin.
Wait, no.
Burnt
Gryffindor.
Hufflepuff.
Catstall? Basically not Ravenclaw. One thing straight.
We argued about this literally for days. Like, we were changing his notes up until last night. 11 is a messy bitch, which is why, as you will see on the next slide, his sorting is equally messy. We think 11 is a burnt Gryffindor primary, a Slytherin secondary, but he's modeling Hufflepuff.
And this is why.
Yeah. 11 is impulsive, very impulsive. He's also volatile. He's not steady, so he can't be a Hufflepuff primary. I love when people say he's a Hufflepuff. Okay.
At best, he's a burnt, but he doesn't,
so.
at the end of the day, he doesn't value hard work enough. Not even like to model Hufflepuff. No. In the end, he's modeling it because he wants to value it, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, he just doesn't put in the work. He's not a very good friend.
The key for 11 is that a lot of his dialogue sounds like a burnt Gryffindor. So here's where we're going to talk a little bit more about what happens when you have a burnt house. So according to the Sorting Hat Chats quiz, when you have a burnt primary, what that means is the thing that sort of motivates you, what your drivers are, it's still there, but something has happened to fundamentally break your trust in it. So for a Gryffindor, their trust is in their gut, right? Us Gryffindors are intuitive boneheads. So what happens when you're a burnt Gryffindor is you have, for some reason, lost trust in your own sense of your gut or your sense of morality. So it's not that it's not still there. We are all still running around operating on our intuition. But if you're a burnt Gryffindor, what happens is you second guess yourself. So burnt Gryffindors can look and act really fucked up because we really trust our guts. And when you can't trust that anymore, what do you do?
Yep.
So you get a couple of lines in here, like this one from, is that Pandorica? No.
Is it not A Good Man Goes to War?
It is A Good Man Goes to War. When he says good men, so Madame Kovarian says, ugh, I hate good men. They have too many rules. And he says, good men don't need rules. And today's not the day to find out why I have so many.
Oh.
Burnt Gryffindor. Yeah. And
Yeah.
also, Gryffindors, I mean, I have to say it. I'm sorry to say it, but we love to be seen being the big bad heroes. That's
Put
like our
on
thing.
a show.
Yeah, that's right.
Put that spotlight on
We
me.
love people to see us being so great, so brave. So when this is, I think, the astronaut, the impossible astronaut, he's, everyone's down below talking about how they just saw the Doctor die, and 11's up top, and then he leans down and goes, I'm being extremely clever up here, and there's no one to stand around looking impressed. What's the point in having you all? Spoken like a Gryffindor.
Doesn't take pleasure in being clever. He takes pleasure in people watching him be clever.
seen. Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's important to note that we think burnt Gryffindor primary, but he's not a double Gryffindor because the Gryffindor secondary, the how, Gryffindor secondaries are chargers. We're really direct. We're really impulsive. But also secondary Gryffindor doesn't like to lie. And 11 lies all the fucking time.
He lies and he runs. He
Yeah.
runs away from stuff.
Which is why we were thinking Slytherin secondary. Because if you have a Slytherin secondary, it means that lying doesn't bother you. That's like the way that you view adapting to the situation, what it means. You'll lie, you'll deceive, you'll manipulate if you have to, because that's what the situation calls for. Which also, I think, we were talking about this last night, a Gryffindor-Slytherin pairing might result in a person who's constantly up against they're just butting up against themselves.
Yep.
And I think 11, 10's really fucked up about what happened in the Time War. Don't get me wrong, so much angst.
Y'all need therapy.
Yeah, everyone just go to therapy. But I do think that 11 is the most fucked up about himself. And this pairing sounds right to me. We do think he models Hufflepuff. We think he wants to be nicer. He wants to be fair. But it's just not what makes him tick. So he tries to imitate those qualities, which is why when people say, he's Hufflepuff, I'm like, yeah, I understand your impulse there. But he's not motivated by hard work. And he's not motivated by getting to know people. He's motivated by being seen, being great.
Exactly. He's not the steady show up and do the work. He's more of the flashy, glamorous part of being the Doctor. But his friends do motivate him, and he loves his friends. But at the end of the day, because he's burnt, because he's just a lot of dysfunctional, he ends up manipulating his friends more than anything.
He also doesn't let people get close to him, which means he's definitely not a Hufflepuff. We were briefly like, maybe he's burnt Hufflepuff, because if a burnt Hufflepuff is still out in the world operating, Hufflepuff is driven by their community, right? They love connecting to people. So a burnt Hufflepuff means that they're keeping everybody at arm's length. So that's why we were like, oh, he could be a burnt Hufflepuff. But then at the end of the day, we were like, no, he likes to be seen.
But his strengths lie in Gryffindor, for sure. Yeah. Anyways, 11, messy bitch. Definitely not Ravenclaw. But we love mess, so
We do love mess.
he was the most fun /
Hardest
to sort. It will get easier from here. Speaking of which, his TARDIS is hilarious because after a very long run of heavy Ravenclaw TARDIS presence in 10's run, that was a lot of Ravenclaw. It was 10 double, Martha
double,
and then
Donna.
Donna. Moved to 11 and his TARDIS run, not a Ravenclaw insect. So we got Amy, double Gryffindor. Of course. Of course. Just perfect example. We got Rory Williams, double Hufflepuff. It's okay. We're done. And River Song, double Slytherin.
Oh,
Just very true to their brands.
yeah, let's back up.
Yeah, we can talk about the whole fam.
So, Amy Pond is double Gryffindor. Remember when she meets the 11th Doctor again for the second time in the 11th hour, and she shuts his tie in a car door and then locks it? That's Gryffindor, baby. And this scene too, when Madame Kavarian's like, something, the Doctor, and she's like, the Doctor isn't here, bitch, and then puts the eye patch back over her. Woo! And we were just talking about this a couple minutes ago before we started. Gryffindor, they have a strong sense of right and wrong, but it's not. So Gryffindors don't have they don't believe that there's a real right and wrong that's true for everybody. It's all individually derived. It's contextual. So for Amy Pond, I'm going to tell you.
And the context is you, not the situation.
Right. Yeah, it's about your context. So Amy Pond, part of what she thinks is right is people should suffer when they've done bad things, which is why she puts that eye patch back on Madame Kavarian and does not feel fucking bad about it at all, because that's part of her that's what she feels is right. Madame Kavarian should be punished. And so she's going to make it happen. Yeah. Double Gryffindor. And Rory, we were talking about this last night. Sweet Rory, sweet Hufflepuff, our little homebody. He loves Ledworth. He loves Amy. He'd be fine just staying home.
If it wasn't for Amy, he wouldn't be on that TARDIS.
Yeah, but he also, part of this is because everyone always shoves it into his lap. But Rory often ends up being the one that helps new people adjust.
He does.
And it's because he's the nice one who cares about other people feeling welcome in the TARDIS.
The one that trains the interns, for sure. Yeah.
We were just watching The Impossible Astronaut the other day, and Canton Delaware Everett III, he's like, how are you doing? Okay? And he's like answering his questions. Hufflepuff. Big Hufflepuff energy.
And
Obviously.
let's talk about River.
Yeah.
Obviously double. Like,
Obviously.
she owns that shit. Like, she can... Have you ever met someone more resourceful? She can adapt on a dime, and she's pretty much loyal to herself and the doctor and
Amy and Rory.
yeah, like so her fam. Like, I love it. I don't know if there's much more to say. Like,
she's also one of the hallmarks of Slytherin is will do whatever it takes. It's the house of whatever it takes.
The doctor, her own regeneration energy is a moment where she's like, I just need to hear that he's worth it.
Silence in the library.
Done. No questions asked.
Tells the doctor his name because that's she's like, I'm sorry, I wouldn't do this under normal circumstances, but this is what I fucking have to do in order to do what needs to be done long term. So we're just gonna have to get over it together.
Yep.
And also, even the ending of that episode when she's sitting in the chair, she's gonna wire herself into the system. And the doctor is trying to convince her to get out of it. And he says, I might have a chance. And she says, you wouldn't have a chance, and neither do I. And then she keeps working because that's what a Slytherin does. Whatever it takes.
Get shit done.
That's right.
All right. Should we move on?
Yeah.
Okay. 12th Doctor. We're not doing Clara first, obviously, because we just don't acknowledge Clara
There
with 11.
is
No
Leaf. Season 7 doesn't exist.
12 is obviously a Slytherin.
He's so baby.
Paired with Ravenclaw. Yes, that is him with an actual fez. It is not in Doctor Who, but I had to include it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about 12. 12 is loyal. He is prepared. When his plan doesn't work, he has a second plan. He constructs his morality systems based on context and situations, not on an objective truth. He's like, that doesn't exist. Being right is easy. We need to win. And one of the most Slytherin moments is with Clara when she totally betrays him. You let me down. She is like, you're going to fucking get Danny. She tries to like manipulate him, blah, blah, blah. And he says, do you think I care for you so little that betraying me would make a difference? No, we're going to hell together and we're getting a man. Like, he is the most ride or die bitch. So to me, it's pretty easy to sort him in Slytherin. I do think that he has some Ravenclaw secondary aspects to him because he expresses a lot of his behaviors through analytical thought, and he prioritizes science and evidence, like what is there in front of him. And what else about him?
Ravenclaw secondaries, they're like the hallmark of a Ravenclaw secondary is they're always prepared. They're the Boy Scouts of the Hogwarts houses. So when you're looking at 12, a Ravenclaw secondary doesn't have to improvise because they've already thought of every possible outcome. We'll say that with the caveat that all doctors at some point are flying by the seat of their pants because that's kind of the nature of the show. Just like all doctors will have big speeches about how they're a hero. But part of where 12 shows up with that Ravenclaw secondary is when crisis happens. And then he's like, no, I already have this thing. It's the Tudis. I made it here for you.
The Tudis.
And then when it doesn't work, he's like, okay, I have another one that we can try. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Which is
very suave.
Yeah. In conjunction with Slytherin, there's that quick adaptability. Just roll with the punches. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. I have a backup plan that's ready to go. Yeah. So I think about it's a terrible episode, World Enough of Time and the Doctor Falls. It's not a terrible episode. The concept's really interesting. What happens and it sucks. But in The World Enough in Time, when Missy's pretending to be him and he's got the earpiece on and he's eating chips and crisps, if you're British, sorry. But finally somebody's like, oh, it's this thing. And he goes, God, finally, it's like watching grass grow. And it's because he's already ahead of everybody else. He's just waiting for you to catch up to him. That's a Ravenclaw secondary.
Absolutely. And I think one of the pivotal defining moments of sifting out that Slytherin primary and the Ravenclaw secondary is in a episode where a lot of people point to name him as a Ravenclaw, just like plain Ravenclaw, is when I think it's in Listen, and he's like, I need to know what's on the other side of that door. What is the last thing living on this earth, in the universe rather? And to me, I read that as not just like someone who needs and seeks out knowledge for knowledge's sake. I think it's a Slytherin moment because he's like, why do I want to? It's the why. Why do I want to know what's on the other side of the door? I want to be the person at the end of the world. I want to know because no one else knows. I want to have that under my belt.
Yeah, he says of Orson, I thought I'd be the last man standing.
I thought I would be the last man standing, but he's so offended. So to me, that is more of like he wants to be on top of that.
Yeah. I think Heaven Sent is also a very Slytherin. That is a very, very
Grit.
Slytherin episode. Grit,
Get it
whatever it takes. When he's getting ready to burn himself, and he's coaching himself through it in his head. He says, how long can I keep doing this, burning the old me to make a new one?
Oof.
And the answer is, as long as it takes, right? Because 12 is a Slytherin. A Gryffindor would have already smashed through a wall and just like banged through things. And a Ravenclaw would have tried to problem solve it. And Slytherin's like, this is the most direct route to what I want. And I will keep doing it until I get where I need to be.
Absolutely. And the source too, like the motivation is like, he's pretty much doing it for his fam. He's doing it for his best bud, Clara.
Mm-hmm.
So that is motivation enough.
And when he's thinking about talking to Clara,
Yep.
he's imagining how Clara would motivate him. Clara tells him,
how you gonna win,
get
Boo?
up off your ass and win. And that's Slytherin, baby.
Yeah. And I don't think like we'll get to Clara, but it's not really Clara saying like, this is my motivation, here you go. It's actually Clara being a really good teacher because she's a brilliant teacher. And she's like, how will you be motivated? You like to win. That's what I'm gonna put on this chalkboard to get your ass up.
Which is part of why, we'll talk more about this when we get to the Bill section. It's part of why we think 12 models Hufflepuff at the end of his run, because he really values kindness. It's the thing he's learned. He starts learning it from Clara. He learns more about it with Bill, but he has learned that being kind to people and showing them that they matter, that's valuable. And even though it doesn't come naturally to him, it's something that he wishes was his primary driver. So that's how you end with my favorite regeneration speech, with a doctor saying, be kind. That's what's important.
Love an arc.
Love an arc.
All right. So moving on to Clara Oswald. What we got? Obviously
double Gryffindor. Oh my god.
Gryffindor on Gryffindor on Gryffindor on Gryffindor. I would leave the caveat in there that she does model Ravenclaw.
Yes.
She loves being the smartest one in the room.
Oh, but she loves being seen being smart.
Yep. She's being smart because she wants to be the hero.
Yes.
And that is often the tool that she will use to get to that end.
Yeah, I will say, Clara in Dark Water throwing the TARDIS keys in the volcano.
Girl.
Big Gryffindor energy. Holy shit. Like, she's like,
No
I have
plan
one key
whatsoever.
left. And then when she throws the key in, she's like, I would say I'm sorry, but I'd do it again.
I would do it again.
I would do it again. And also, Face the Raven, her death, that's what this gif is from, and Face the Raven is like a messy Gryffindor death from top to bottom, because she's like, I'm being smart. She is very, very smart. And she really cares about being clever.
She's using the cleverness to get to the end of being brave and saving a life.
But she's not actually Ravenclaw because she didn't think all the way through her plan, and that's what kills her.
Yep, well said.
My good bitch.
I mean, she owns it, so
she does.
It's chill.
She does. And that's, this is the best possible messy Gryffindor death you could have, because she tells the doctor, let me be brave. Let me face Gryffindor. She says, let me face my death head on. I made this choice. I did this. I accept the consequences. I'm not going to stay here and avoid it. I'm going to go out there and die facing my own choices right to the end. Gryffindor's big Gryffindor energy.
All right. Bill Potts. Bill Potts, we love her lots.
Sorry, we have to. It's the law.
We didn't even plan that. Okay. Bill Potts is a Ravenclaw Hufflepuff. Very similar to Donna. Like I said, super similar brands. She is always asking the right questions. I love the questions that she asks. This question that is featured on our GIF right here is an example, perfect example. She's always approaching things from another angle. So it was like so great when we had her as a companion come on, and like we have all of these kind of like rituals and traditions for the way a new doctor and a new companion look. And she just like flips all of those around and like brings like this new fresh look on everything, which was amazing. I love Bill so much.
It's like a kitchen.
It's like a really posh kitchen.
Everything all metal except for the doors. What happened? Did you run out of money?
Did you run out of money? Okay, so Ravenclaw. She she has like this moral system that is derived and built from external like things that she has gathered and absorbed, like knowledge. Like the way that she comes onto the show is her allure to the doctor's physics class.
Yeah.
And the doctor says, everyone frowns when they don't understand something. You stood out to me because you smile. And that's Bill. She says, questions are kind of my thing. You realize I'm going to try everything, right? When they're in thin ice. And thin ice is actually a really good example of how her Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff identities combined and interact. Because there's this moment when the little boy gets swallowed up by the ice and she's like, what the fuck? Are you guys paying attention? Like there's this gut reaction. Like this is wrong. This is a life that we just saw get got. And then the doctor's like, we're moving on. We got stuff to do. And then she, goes away and she's like, no, I need to take a minute because this is going against my internal system. And she's like, how many people have you killed? The doctor, a Slytherin, responds with, hey, the context of those situations.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes you have very few options. And she immediately does not take his shit. She says, not what I asked.
That is not what I asked.
You will answer my question.
Uh-huh.
And so she needs to reconcile with this. And this is like, she does not accept this. But by mid-episode, Bill has absorbed this new information. She's taken it in. She's sat with it. And she has changed her system because she can adapt with that when she's analyzed it for herself. So by mid-episode, she has accepted, okay, there are more things that I was not thinking about. And she still stays true to her Hufflepuffness and is continually always looking out for the person that's being overlooked and for what's fair and what feels right for her community.
Yeah, I think if somebody really wanted to make the case for Hufflepuff Ravenclaw, I was saying this earlier today, I would totally buy, but I think where I end up landing feeling strongly that she's a Ravenclaw primary is this moment in Thin Ice where she says, she actually echoes the doctor where she says, I moved on. And it's not, she doesn't feel bad for having taken in this new information and adapting her system. She wants people to live because that's important to her because of her Hufflepuff secondary. But ultimately, she is somebody who adapts, picks up information and goes, oh, okay, the way I approach the world or I approach the situation needs to change and makes adjustments and then keeps going. Because that's the hallmark of a Ravenclaw primary. They want to understand the world and they're building a system that they think is the most efficient and most correct, the thing that will get them the most new information. So a Ravenclaw, part of their like signature move, them and Slytherins are both really fluid. They're adaptable. So that moment in Thin Ice to me is the tipping point where I go, yes, Ravenclaw. And because I think a lot of her Ravenclaw gets expressed, the how is through that Hufflepuffness. She's very much like Donna in that way, where she wants to get to know people on individual levels. She wants to be fair. She's so hardworking. Bill's one of the hardest working companions we have. And she is dedicated to making sure that she uses the opportunities she has to try and make the world more fair. But part of how she does that is through that why, the systems.
Mm-hmm. She's also a really creative thinker.
She is. Oh my God.
She's more along the lines of a Luna Lovegood Ravenclaw. Whereas we have the 10th Doctor and Martha are Ravenclaws, but a very different brand.
Yeah.
But still a Ravenclaw. Do not take her Ravenclawness away from her.
Look at this, the GIF that we used here, where she's like, TARDIS doesn't make any sense in any other language.
Did you even think about that for 1 second?
Nobody has said that up to this point. And that's because Bill's mind just works differently. And
that's status quo? That's right. Status quo. Who's she? I've never heard of her. I don't give a shit about that. No. All right. Well, I'm going to say before we move on, this is part of why we say 12 ends up modeling Hufflepuff at the end of his arc. It's because of Bill. It's because of Bill, and it's because Clara models Hufflepuff as well. But then he gets, after the huge loss with Clara being gone, his new companion is somebody who actually has a really strong Hufflepuff secondary, and he admires that in her. The Doctor loves Bill and loves the way that she thinks. So it makes absolute sense to me that at the end of his run, part of why he's modeling is because one of the people he loves the most at this point in his cycle as the 12th Doctor is a really strong Ravenclaw. Okay. Alright, which brings us to the 13th Doctor, who is the incarnation of all of those aspirations and dreams. She is our double Hufflepuff. That's right.
Of course. I would argue that by an 11th season, or Series 11, she is a Hufflepuff. And in Series 12, she is a burnt Hufflepuff. Still Hufflepuff, though. 13 is aware of the people around her more than any other doctor that I've come across. She desires her approval from her fam. She really wants to know that they have her back, that they are watching her, that they feel seen, that they are included. She's a super inclusive doctor who is like team oriented. She has her moments when she's like, oh, no, don't you fucking forget. I'm still the doctor and y'all still humans. But she's like including people's strengths and getting them involved in every single process as much as possible. She is super concerned with what is fair and equitable. One of her first big speech is, I'm the doctor. I'm sorting out fair play throughout the universe. And that's like the tagline of a Hufflepuff.
Space for all.
Fair play. Yeah, space for all.
I know. Space for all.
Space for all.
But that's
it's about time.
It's the Doctor Who Great Awakening. But that is a really Hufflepuff ethos to be like space for all.
That's true. Yeah. She also hates bullies.
She does.
And we were just watching Blam. So the way that she's constantly like, hey, you're a fucking bully. You are an annoying white man. Be nicer to Kira, please. She always includes please. Respect goes both ways. Very Hufflepuff. And there's so many examples for her. She loves a biscuit.
She does love a biscuit. We talked about in Resolution.
Value their snacks.
Yeah, that's why they are wise. Hufflepuff put their house by the kitchens. That's what's up. But we also talked about in Resolution where she's like, final.
Oh, yeah.
Final warning.
Because I'm nice.
Because I'm nice.
I really do try my best.
Because Hufflepuff is most likely to be the pacifist house. Sometimes people rebrand that as like an avoider house. And Hufflepuffs can be avoiders because they want to keep the peace. But it's driven not by avoiding tension, but rather by wanting everyone to feel happy, safe, and welcome, which is why they can be avoiders.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, Series 13, she's getting burnt. She's not doing great. And she starts to, push her friends away and like curl into herself. And that looks like a Hufflepuff in a bad way, for sure.
That's a burning Hufflepuff, for sure.
My baby. She needs a hug.
She does need a hug. Everyone on that TARDIS needs a hug.
Absolutely. No. Just let them hug. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, we got Grace O'Brien first. We will definitely be sorting her. And it is not hard at all. Your girl's a double Gryffindor, for sure. We had, 20 minutes with this woman, and immediately we're like, double Gryffindor.
Oh, she is big Gryff energy. The moment that I knew it, other than a lot of times Gryffindors, and I'm not saying this to be self-aggrandizing, but I am saying it, so here we go. Gryffindors often get framed as the most charismatic house, and it's because people like our big shouty energy, but we tend to be, because Gryffindors are so like, I have to be myself or else I'm not being authentic. It means that we read as really confident a lot of the time, even when you're a fucked up Gryffindor. So part of it is that she has that charisma. She has that like certitude, her self-reliance. So a lot of that reads as really confident. But the other thing is the moment when I was like, Gryffindor, is towards the end of the episode, the doctors told them to leave. And the little, I forget what it's called, the tentacle thing is, it's getting ready to try and stop the doctor. And Grace has, I think she has cords in her hand and she goes, we have to stop it, and tosses it at Graham. That is big Gryffindor energy to be like, I'm not doing what I'm told. I'm doing what I think is right. And what I think is right is stopping those tentacles.
Exactly.
Big, shouty, running in, no plan. Yes.
Meanwhile, Graham, actually we'll get to him, so I won't skip to it, but Graham, being a Hufflepuff, is like, no, I'm going to do what I'm told. I'm satisfied sitting here. Like, what did you just say? She's like, nope, I think not.
I said, the Sorting Hat Chats quiz says Gryffindors are more likely to get loud than change their message, which is, I feel seen, and I think it's rude.
They don't change the message. They just say the same message, but get louder.
I find that rude.
Wow. The accuracy. I love it. And I love Grace O'Brien. Okay, Ryan Sinclair. Don't you dare.
Don't you dare. Double Hufflepuff.
Double Hufflepuff.
Yes, you're so uncool. He is a double Hufflepuff. We actually, this was the last person we sorted because we don't know Ryan very well. But I recently, like earlier today, I was like, I think he's double Hufflepuff. Because the thing that we know about Ryan the most is that Ryan thinks you should show the fuck up, which is deeply Hufflepuff. So the thing that bugs him the most about his dad is that his dad didn't show up to Grace's funeral. He thinks that's a huge, like an egregious sin that he does not feel good about. And he also tells Yas when they're in the Serenga conundrum, and Yas is going back and forth about whether or not he should keep his kid. And Ryan says, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be there. That's Huff energy.
Yep.
And he's also super hardworking. Ryan, I mean, the thing about Hufflepuffs is they don't have a monopoly on working hard, but they're the house of toil. A Hufflepuff will keep at it. They are steady and they show up and they do the work, even if it's not fun work, even if there are shortcuts. Hufflepuffs do it because it needs to be done. You want a Hufflepuff on your team. And Ryan talks a lot about how a lot of things are really hard for him because of his dyspraxia, but he keeps at it because that's the work that he's choosing to do, even if he doesn't love it, right? He doesn't love working in the warehouse, but he does it. And he also, we find in Kerblam, he's saying, I'm good at this job, even though I hate it, but I'm good at it, which I was only able to do.
And I had to fight for that shit.
Yeah, because I had friends who covered for me.
Yep.
Hufflepuff, baby.
Yep. I love him. All right. Graham O'Brien, we already spoiled it. He's a double Hufflepuff as well, which shows some of the breadth of Hufflepuff because I would say
she's a pickled sarnie.
He loves his snacks.
He does.
Keep them.
It's
for
really,
emergencies.
I mean, fuck J.K. Rowling. So canon, the author is dead. It doesn't fucking matter. But on the one thing that's important to note about Hufflepuff is the catch-all house, right? Hufflepuff says, I'll take the lot and I'll teach them all the same. So more than any other house, I think Hufflepuff is really broad. And so Hufflepuff can look really, really different from character to character. So even though him and Ryan are both double Hufflepuff and the Doctor, they're all so really different looking Hufflepuffs. Yeah, because it expresses itself in different ways. So Graham definitely is. Like, he's hardworking. He loves snacks. He also cares about people. It just comes out in slightly different ways. We were watching Kerblam, and he does care about Charlie. It's coming out in his sort of gruff, silly way.
Yeah. Yeah, and he is one of the characters in Doctor Who who is a man who has some of the most high emotional intelligence. He's doing a lot of emotional labor for a lot of Series 11 and 12. He will go and sit with a person who he knows is struggling and talk things through. And he's really good at balancing, like, what does this person need right now? Do they need, like, more of a stern, like, tough love? Do they need someone who's just there to listen and understand? He asks really good questions that get to, like, the heart of what someone is going through.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I think that some of his stuff is a little bit less like glamorous and glitzy. It's the more background, like supportive roles that he plays. And
I think his time in the TARDIS is teaching him to model Gryffindor. Secondary.
He definitely does not start off as one.
And he's definitely not actually Gryffindor in any way because he doesn't charge. But he is a straight shooter the way a Gryffindor secondary would be. Gryffindor secondary, if you're how is Gryffindor, that means you charge. We don't think things through. You charge, you don't lie, you're super direct. One of the ways they talk about it in the Sorting Hat chat is a Gryffindor secondary is a blunt force object. So they'll just steamroller their way through. That's not Graham, but he is learning to be more direct in that way. I think we've talked about this a little bit this season on the Queer Archive, that the rehabilitation of Graham's character is so stark from who he is and the woman who fell to earth.
Yeah, I don't think it's an arc. I think it was really sloppily done. He's just a different character.
We don't have to talk about he is a different character, though. That's what I'm saying. In the first episode, he's really like, I don't want any of this nonsense. I don't want to be involved. I just want to go home. And then by the point where it's Arachnids in the UK, he wants to stay on the TARDIS because part of him is, I think he's modeling Grace. Part of why he's taking the opportunity is because he's saying this is what Grace would want us to do, which he talks about with Ryan, like what would Grace say if she were here?
Yep. Yeah, because like he would be happy like chilling at home. Like he doesn't have that drive in him. He's not super curious about that. But it's a part of his like growth that he.
They say with a sarcastic fling of the hand, growth.
We all know.
He's on the TARDIS. He has the most writing. We like him. We don't want to like him. We're moving on.
Yeah. But I mean, I still stand the emotional labor that he's doing in these seasons. And I think that he's a strong, solid double Hufflepuff. Like that is his motivator in the way that he behaves and acts in most of these episodes and his role on the TARDIS.
Yeah, I think about, God, I've just forgotten the episode, the season finale from series 12, where it's him and Yaz and they think they're going to die. And what does Graham do? Graham tells Yaz, I think you're an incredible person. You're maybe the most incredible person I've ever known. And he gives her this super encouraging speech because that's what would speak to a Hufflepuff, is that sort of verbal affirmation and telling somebody, I see you, I see who you are, I see what you do. And that's so valuable and you matter, right? That's so Hufflepuff. And then she turns around and goes, cool. So fucking funny.
It's a love letter.
Thanks.
Okay, I think speaking of Yaz, she's our last person. Okay.
Woo!
My girl is a Slytherin Hufflepuff for sure. Okay, so
damn, this TARDIS is so Hufflepuff heavy.
It's a very Hufflepuff TARDIS. I'm okay with it. I love that for them.
I love that for all of us. Hufflepuffs are the best.
So okay, Slytherin definitely like her primary. She loves to be acknowledged. She loves every time the doctor gives her 10 points, a high five, a look, anything, for many reasons. But she is super driven. She is she like has her eyes set on the prize. I think like a moment when in Praxeus where she's like, oh, man, like she was super bummed when she didn't discover a new planet. She's like, this was my moment. So I think she's constantly like looking for her moment.
Yeah.
She wants to embody the doctor. She's like in step with them. She's constantly looking for someone to impress and to show that she's achieving.
Yeah.
I resonate so much. And I think that she has a pretty like flexible system for morality, but there is that strong Hufflepuff thread where she's like, I am looking out for the person who is struggling right now. I have this drive to pull out conversations from like her friends, like Ryan. She's like, tell me about what you're struggling with right now on the Surrender Conundrum. Like she's often playing that supporting role. So she has the range. Like she's trying to be a leader, but also a leader who's very in tune with the people around her and what they need and trying to get to know them and serve them well.
Yeah. I think another thing that really cements her Slytherin primary for me is she's very, very ambitious and not just at work.
Yep.
So at work, she's like, I can do more than just write tickets for jaywalkers. Like, give me more. But she says the same thing to the doctor. She says, I want more time with you, more of the universe. So she's somebody who is really ambitious, has the drive to achieve it, but does not sacrifice her interest in people or in what's fair in order to achieve those goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd say, like, she's an example of a Slytherin, like, using all of her ambition and all of those resourceful tools for a cause.
Yeah.
Like, the me and mine is, like, for this cause. And it, again, it bleeds into her Hufflepuff sense of, like, who's in need the most. And I'm going to put all of my energy and all of my cunning resourcefulness towards that. And it's kind of in like one and the same with her goals, and she's super driven by her goals.
Yeah. Slytherin primary, I mean, the Sorting Hat Chats quiz says it's loyal to me and mine, but there's a whole section where they really emphasize that me and mine can mean a lot of different things. So it can mean your family, blood, or chosen. Or if you're a Slytherin who's chosen a whole group or the entire world, it can look like that. I think one of the things that's really interesting about Yaz is her Slytherin credit for me and mine is definitely her family. And you can see that when her mom calls and says, can you come pick me up? Don't tell them why.
Yeah.
And that's like a really Slytherin moment that she's like, okay, I have to go pick up To go help mom. I'll be
She
back.
weighs
Yeah.
the situation.
Oh, yeah.
She knows, like, okay, obviously this warrants for a little bit of, fibbing, a little bit of, just going with the flow and collecting, more context from her mom, figuring it out. And then once she gets there, she stands up for her mom. She's like, she tries to embody the Slytherin ambition that she's still trying to achieve in her job right now. But she's young and she gets shot down by Robert. Fake Trump.
Not
I
insurance.
almost said Robert Pattinson again, but I don't want to get slapped on the live stream.
Over Robert Pattinson?
Can you say, like, how dare?
I said, how dare you? He is our favorite Hollywood weirdo. He's a real freak.
Anyways, she's always like in Rosa, she steps up. She's like to that guy in the beginning with Brian, when Brian actually gets slapped, and she like puts on her training conceptual vest, and she gets up in that dude's face. Like, she will go to bat for her fam, and she's ride or die. Like, whatever happens, I'm with you.
I think Demons of the Punjab is actually a really interesting case study in how these two function, because she is loyal to Umbreen, obviously, but when Manish first shows up and they're people are like, Manish is a dick, and she actually is like,
well, I'm gonna go help Manish because I want to get to know him and get to understand him a little bit more. So you can see the two like houses, the primary and secondary, working together to kind of figure out the situation.
Also, she's just like, I need to figure out a way to stay here because we're definitely staying
we have
here
to
because
figure
I
out what's happening here. Yeah.
I love it because she's like, yo, look at my resources. Checks notes. The doctor, one of my best friends, has a time machine. Definitely going to call in that favor.
Yeah.
Let's go. It's the use of having a mate with a time machine if you can't go back and see your nan.
Yeah.
So Slytherin Hufflepuff. Anything else? I think we have a little bit of time.
We do have 8 minutes.
I don't know if we want to open up for questions, if you want to fight, if you want to go, knock our buck. But I think we did good.
We did good. We made it.
I was afraid we were going to run out of time, y'all.
When we finished our slideshow last night, we were like, oh my God, it's going to be 2 minutes per person. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Yeah.
So, sorry if we ran through some of them real fast, but let's go. What questions do I have? Oh, comments. Wow. Okay.
Batman? Evan the Master, which one? I assume you're talking about Sasha Dewan. Sasha Dewan is a Brent Hufflepuff. Sasha Dewan is a Brent Hufflepuff, 100%.
That's a Brent Hufflepuff right there.
Yeah, that is somebody who is lashing out because the people they thought they could count on have betrayed them, and now they're afraid, and they're keeping everybody away and just lashing out in all directions. Brent Hufflepuff. Yeah. Yep.
Also, Missy is obviously a Slytherin.
Missy is Slytherin.
She's like, oh, that's not working out for me over there. I'm going to hop over here. I think this is the winning team right now.
Alex, if you are a new Doctor Who fan, starting with the 13th Doctor is actually a really great blank slate, and it'll give you the basics.
Yeah.
A lot of people would say start with the 11th Doctor, and you can also try that if you like. If you really want to jump in, just cold feet and really go for it, you can start with Eccleston. If you can make it through Pizza, you can do anything.
Yeah. Just know it's going to be real rough going for a while.
Yeah.
But it's definitely worth it. Like, whether you start there or make your way back, like, definitely watch 9 for sure.
Brittany says, I started with David Tennant. Brittany, I actually, this is a rarely made confession. I started with Eccleston, but then I got bored, so I jumped to David Tennant.
No shame here. I think that's relevant for a lot of people.
Yes. Black Girls Create. Sorry about it. Not sorry. I've seen them all now, but right. I jumped ahead to Blink, actually, on the recommendation of the friend that told me you would like Doctor Who.
Yeah. I think there's some, like, standard recommendation episodes that people go to, and it works for some people. Blink really worked for you.
School reunion.
Like why school reunion? Like,
yeah.
I feel like it's an important episode, but like I never have heard that one as that first one.
I have a hard time with school reunion because every time I watch it, I'm like, Giles, what are you doing? Why are you acting like this?
Giles is a little baby in that episode.
Oh, Van Gogh episode's really good.
Van Gogh is a really great episode, obviously. I don't know about how I feel about it for the first episode because it's so damn sad.
It is very
like
sad.
I wouldn't get the right feeling about Doctor Who if that was my first impression of it.
Yeah, one of our friends really thinks that the Vincent Van Gogh episode is the best one for introducing somebody to Doctor Who. And I do think there are some key ways that it totally makes sense because it is self-contained. It is a great episode, and it's a good episode for showing who the Doctor can be when he's firing on all cylinders, and also for the right reasons. Like, he's not being evil in Vincent Van Gogh.
Yeah.
It's not like you're watching Waters of Mars. We rewatched Waters of Mars recently, and it's like, oh boy.
Oh, that's a great episode for proving why 10 is Ravenclaw again.
Yeah.
Because he goes too far, and he's like, Ravenclaws test out their systems and they push it until they realize, okay, that's too far, or I need to adapt. So he's like pushing it, gets to the point where he's like, time is my
victorious.
Bitch.
That's right.
Time is my little bitch.
That's
and
right.
Then the captain teaches him a little bit of a lesson, and he's like,
oh no, okay,
right.
I went too far. I fucked up.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, solid Ravenclaw. Time Lord victorious. Woof.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blink is a great first episode if you acknowledge that it's not always that creepy, and it's gonna get a little bit better.
Yeah.
But it's a great first episode because it's Dr. Light, so you like don't have to understand who the Doctor is too much. You get more of a like new character just along with everyone else is getting that new character.
Yeah.
You're not missing too much out.
Yeah. Somebody up there said, did we do Mickey? We didn't. We were worried about running out of time, so we skipped several people who come through some.
Jack, we skipped Mickey.
Skip Jack. I think if I had to make my best case for Mickey, I think Mickey is probably a Gryffindor Hufflepuff with a really strong Hufflepuff secondary. But Mickey has really clear cut, this is right and this is wrong.
Yeah.
That he is inflexible on. And that's a Gryffindor baby.
Yeah. I would agree. I mean, Hufflepuffs share that in common with Gryffs. It's Ravenclaws and Slytherins that are a little bit more adaptable with their systems. So both of those resonate for sure. But I think I would agree he's Gryff first. Jack is obviously a Slytherin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were saying we think
Very
probably
adaptable.
double Slytherin, but I would buy Slytherin Ravenclaw if somebody made the case.
To introduce someone to the Doctor Who, you need to sit someone down and show them that there are different episodes with completely
different tones. Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh! Like within one season, let alone from showrunner to showrunner. Absolutely, it can take so many different directions.
Yeah.
Which is one of the best things about Doctor Who as a fandom, because if one era isn't your thing, maybe the next one will be your thing.
Just wait a couple months. Oh, LOL, wait a couple years.
Cannot tell you how glad and thankful and just completely elated I am that they shot the
Christmas
holiday special or whatever it is.
Yeah. Whatever it's gonna be
before all of this, because
we're gonna be in a drought.
Waiting for that one thing alone is already testing me. But yeah, at least we have something to look forward to.
Are there any other questions floating around in there? Sorry, we couldn't see any of your reactions to our spicy takes while we were going through the slides.
Completely unaware.
Batman.
Griff Grace.
Uh-huh.
Right. Yeah, someone said Huffin for 13. I just don't think I see enough Slytherin in her yet, but we almost gave her a Slytherin secondary. Almost.
Yeah, we did talk about it,
I think
but then
we need to
changed.
see more of it to really place her in there. I think, okay, here's the reason why we landed on Hufflepuff, because burnt Hufflepuffs are often like really similar to Slytherins. So
yeah,
I landed on she's a Hufflepuff because she's clearly a burnt Hufflepuff in Series 12, which is sometimes confused for her just being a Slytherin. But yeah, I think she's going through it. Yeah, but it's all of that isn't really natural to her. And if she was functional and healthy, she wouldn't really thrive on a lot of the Slytherin things. It's just her trying to, latch onto something else because the Hufflepuffness isn't working for her.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. We're about to be out of time in like 9 seconds. So this was the Sorting Fez. We followed through on our threats. Threats don't work unless you deliver.
Okay, Gryffindor. All right. Thanks so much again for inviting us. We had so much fun.
Yeah.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.